Welcome to Fightline, brought to you in conjunction with Buy My Fight and Westbound Logistics Services. My name's Ben Doughty, and my cup runneth over this week as I'm joined in the studio by Master Knowledge Spencer Fearon.
How you doing, man?
And Operations Manager for Team Joe Joyce, Shane Watson. How you doing?
All good, man. All good. Yourself?
Who cut your hair? Shane? Who cut your hair?
I've got it cut in Shoreditch.
That's a nice fade, you know.
Listen, you shouldn't even be talking about hair today because you're wearing a baseball cap because you haven't had a fresh trim.
That's right. You know, I go to the barbers 3 times a week.
3 times?
I go 3 times a week.
That's mental.
Listen,
it's how we do. So if it isn't now, I know my brother Manny Moose is now saying like, "Boy, Spence, because you always got fresh fade in that." And today I haven't got one, so boy.
It's my show, and I'm sure you can appreciate why I don't want to talk about hair. Before we get on to the main business of the show, looking ahead to the weekend's action and a couple of other compulsive matters, I see there was a lot of consternation when I woke up Sunday morning.
Consternation?
Consternation, yeah.
What does that mean?
It means controversy, disapprobation. Sorry, that's another difficult word.
What does that mean as well?
There was a furore.
Why are you using all these big words?
There was a furore.
Why are you trying to show off yourself?
I'm not even trying.
Just calm yourself down, man. You're winding me up today. I told you, all those little big words, they don't get you views, bro.
No, you're right.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually know what that word meant either.
He didn't know as well. He needs to ginger hair.
We're not getting off to a flying start today.
No, you're winding him up today, bro.
There was a lot of noise and controversy and disapproval of the scorecard in the Joe Smith Jr. Jesse Hart fight. Joe Smith Jr. effectively bashed Jesse Hart from pillar to post for 10 rounds. He got the decision, which is not in doubt, but it was a split decision because there was a judge, I believe his name was James Kinney, who scored it for Hart. And I remember my mate Dennis Rappaport, boxing legend, and
he's the guy,
said, "This is, in all my years of being involved in the sport, this is the worst scorecard I've ever seen." Randy Gordon said similar. What was your take on it? First of all, Spencer.
Fair play to Jesse Hart. It was a very, very good win. There's talks about
Joe Smith Jr.
Jesse Hart.
There's talk about him fighting Anthony Yard. Talk to us about that.
There's talk about him versus Anthony Yard for the vacant WO title. I don't know how that's going to pan out because you got Ramirez there, but Ramirez is kind of falling out of flavour. He's like kind of disappeared. And he's got there's something going on with him in Top Rank, so we don't know.
So he may vacate the belt.
But if you go down the rankings, it's about the availability. So I could see that fight actually happening. I know Frank Warren's got a big show on April 18th.
Yes.
I think Anthony Yard's got some warm-up fight on the 5th of March. So it's just like a breeze through kind of job out in Spain or something like that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that Anthony Yard does get a world title shot. For the vacant title.
Shane, purely on the subject of the controversial scorecard, where a lot of boxing observers said I failed to see how anybody with honest eyes could get that conclusion from the 10 rounds. It will be forgotten about inevitably because the right man won, whereas sometimes we see there's atrocities where the right man doesn't win. But briefly, in your opinion, do we have a major problem across world boxing with scoring, and do you foresee any solution to it?
More now than ever. I think the scoring's got ridiculous.
Worse and worse.
Yeah. Over the last 6 to 8 months, I think the scoring's been poor. Obviously in specific fights. I'm not talking about all fights. Obviously, exactly ridiculous. But when you take a resolution to it, I don't really know. Because people say how judges should be put in a room and watch on TV. I don't necessarily agree with that. And
should they have to justify their scores afterwards, both of you?
Yeah. You know what? It'd be nice. That would be. You know what? It's like judges on certain ruling bodies, judges can't give interviews.
Yes.
Judges can't.
And I see the logic.
Referee. I do see the logic, but then also I would like certain judges to be questioned on some diabolical foolishness that they're going with. So there should be a panel of adjudicators of superior beings who sit down and question this nonsense, because there's certain. You know what I mean? What was it? Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The fact that was the split decision.
You know what?
Right?
At the time, I was very sympathetic towards Oscar when I watched it on the night.
No, because at the time maybe you hated Floyd Mayweather.
No, I didn't hate him. If you go watch the fight, you tell the truth. I didn't hate him.
You did, because everyone's saying that he could beat Sugar Ray Leonard.
I would say even more so Canelo Mayweather being a
majority.
I'm
going to say that again. Exactly. So what's that all about?
You know, I do think, before we move on, let's put it in a nutshell. A lot of the time we say it's either incompetence or just crookedness, corruption. I do believe corruption is a major element, because I don't think there can be that many incompetent officials who've risen to certain ranks. Do you
Not
think it's as
necessarily.
blatant as them getting bungs, or do you think it's more the subtle case of the established favour and playing for the home team?
I think it's the established favour of thinking like, you know what.
The promoter pays them.
Yeah, exactly. Who's paying you? The promoter, and it's usually the promoter. It's the promoter of the A side, and they're thinking, you know what? Let me just. Or sometimes you got to think if you're an A side fighter, that means that you're going majority of the time you're gonna have the crowd behind you, and then certain times you're gonna. You know what I mean, the crowd roar for certain things, like someone could throw a punch and the breeze goes past them, and they scored the punch, and those kind of things I could look at that and say, you know what, there is. But I'm saying, let's be real when we're looking at boxing. Like, it is a perception. Like, there's three of us here, we could be watching something, we're gonna have a different perspective of what we're watching, right? But we should be learned enough to say, listen, man.
One thing that is true, and some people might not understand this, but it is possible to watch one fighter at the expense of the other. Do you ever find yourself doing that? When you're studying, you suppose you're watching James Toney versus Mike McCallum, wonderful first fight.
I'm watching every day.
Imagine, and you're studying, always studying boxing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why they call you Master Knowledge.
Thank you.
You call yourself that. But
No, Kugan Cash just gave me that name, but that's
to be fair, it was. Yeah.
Yes,
But
it
listen, sometimes if you're particularly focusing on the beauty of James Toney's craft that day, you could watch it Tony heavy. You could watch it.
Yeah,
you
of
could
course
watch
you
him. Some people might say, how can you ignore one fighter when they're both in the same frame? But it doesn't quite work like that way. So one time you can watch specific. You must have watched your own fights, and you're watching yourself more than the other guy when you're looking back at your old fights. No, you should have watched him at the time.
I should have, exactly. But now I'm saying, like, what was it? Last night I was watching James Toney versus Juroff. Yeah? One of the greatest cruiserweight fights of all time, right? Incredible performance. But going into the last round, I had Juroff like one up.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So scoring a knockdown, then James Toney scored a knockdown in the 12th round. Even though James Toney was doing some incredible stuff in there, but it's because it's James Toney, and he'll do little wily, incredible things like a 50s fighter will do. And if you're that way inclined, you'll say to yourself, oh my God, I'm watching something fantastic. But he's only done it for like 2 seconds of a round. Yeah. But because of that 2 seconds of a round, he's done something magical. You'll be in his favour. So this is how it goes.
As a paid judge, I mean, you're there to judge the fight. You can't always just look at one fight. You're there to analyse that fight for however many rounds.
But judges are human beings. Judges are human beings. Sure. Right? Period. And you're going to have certain things that you like, which is going to be something different to what Ben likes. Ben's going to have something that he likes, and something to be different to you, and that's what he's looking at. He's going to think, oh man, did you see, the guy done the Ali shuffle, but he did it really well. And then he threw a combination. No, but he threw he did the Ali shuffle, then he threw a wicked combination off the back of it. Then you're going to be slightly fair, but it's actually what you like.
And I don't have a problem with any interpretational difference, even if I wildly disagree with it. I think the problem is we do need to weed out the corruption as best we can. Easier said than done. But moving on, in Philadelphia on Saturday night, the WBA and IBF light middleweight champion Julian J. Rock Williams makes his first defence of the title he won in spring in the upset versus Jarrett Hurd last year against lightly regarded Joyce and Rosario from the Dominican Republic. I believe you've got a little bit of a relationship with Julian Williams.
Yeah, Julian Williams is a really, really cool guy, you know. So yeah, we speak intermittently. I've got a lot of time for him. He was also I think he went to the presser, and he was with the real Rick Ross.
Okay, yeah.
Freeway Rick Ross.
I see Rick Ross do it years ago.
The real Rick Ross.
I saw somebody claiming to be Rick Ross performing at the Mayweather Madonna 2 weigh-in. That's the guy?
No, I'm talking about the real Rick Ross, and the real Rick Ross. Freeway Ricky, he was a big drug dealer back in the day, and went to jail for like 20 years. Come out, reformed his life. He does these programs in schools for kids to how to, and he's a proper G though. Don't get twisted. And he was with Mr. Williams. So when I saw that, I said, yeah, I like that. And you're bringing in like the OGs around you, but
with a positive message.
Yeah, it was rare. But I mean, Julian Williams is a very, very good fighter, and I like the fact that. After he beat Joe Hurt, what he said in the ring afterwards, saying like people look on a defeat like it's a massive setback, like you can come back from things, and because of those kind of things, it makes people want to him even more because he's showing his openness. But seriously, follow him on Twitter because he does come out with some really profoundly correct statements. I've got a lot of time for him, man. Good guy and a good fighter as well.
I think he's unspectacular but highly competent. I was impressed with him, Shane, against Jarrett Hurd. I mean, he looks like a cagey counter-puncher, but he can fight inside. He just looks like a very well-rounded fighter to me.
Yeah, I've interviewed J-Rock a few times. A really, really nice guy, like Spencer said, and that. And I remember watching him against Charlo, and that night he didn't quite look himself as well, and it was a very good
horrible uppercut, man.
Yeah, and it was a very good performance from Charlo as well. You have to give him credit where it's due.
Yeah.
And then that's why when he went into the Jarrett Hurd fight, I was like, I wasn't too confident because I was seeing a lot of Jarrett Hurd, even though I was actually at Fury Wilder where he fought Jason Wellborn. I didn't think he looked good at one point in that fight either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't too confident, and then I was so pleased to see J-Rock pull it off because it couldn't happen to much of a nicer guy either. So, and he's a very good fighter as well, and people now finally get to see that. So
sure, I mean, I think it's hopefully going to be a breakout position for him where he can solidify his position. This guy Rosario, his ring alias is Banana, which obviously to me that suggests
he's up for a slip. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? could there be some kind of metaphorical significance, ominous significance attached to that? Do you think?
Maybe he cut down banana trees back home in the Dominican Republic. We don't know.
That probably sounds more likely.
Yeah,
I would like to know the reasoning behind it because some nicknames are just some
He
nicknames.
worked in the banana fields, maybe.
Some nicknames you get him when you're a kid, and they don't. A lot of nicknames are to make you sound, intimidating or special in some way,
Like the banana.
Banana, it's just a term of endearment.
Yeah.
No,
What's your name? The banana.
Do you know what? It was suggested that the least intimidating, worst nickname in history from a strike fear into the hearts position was the Orchid Man of Georges Caponte, of course.
Yeah, but Caponte could fight.
He certainly could.
I mean, I don't know what Rosario really brings to the table other than maybe a bit of a puncher's chance. I know he can punch a little bit, but even at that sense, at what level can he punch at?
He on his record, he has 19 wins, I believe, 1 loss and a draw. I see the stoppage loss to a guy called Nathaniel, something like Galliano or some name like that, where he got it was
2 years
he got
ago,
taken
right?
out with 1 shot, I believe, in the I believe it was the 6th round. He has a draw with a guy called Mark Anthony Hernandez, who he put to sleep more recently with a single left hook. I looked at Rosario a little bit ahead of this preview, and I think he does. He looks like a competent boxer.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I've watched him.
Stylistically, he doesn't look that different to Williams. I just think Williams is the better fighter.
Well, not only that, but Williams is a Philly fighter.
Sure, and
right? And
what does that mean?
There's a toughness in Philly fighters. Let's be real. There is a toughness in Philly fighters that they pride themselves. Like, they would like to have the pizzazz and box and all the rest of it. But deep down, they are built on and they trade by toughness.
Yeah, and
right?
Because they have a gym culture traditionally over the decades there, where some of the sparring sessions were tougher than some of the fights. If you actually got out of those sparring sessions, Nigel Collins always speaks about a legendary sparring session in Philly folklore between Tyrone and Mike Everett, the two brothers, who would fight like cat and dog in the ring. And he said in the pre-social media days when nobody had mobile phones, he said that it would spread around the gyms like wildfire. People answering the payphone saying, Tyrone and Mike are getting ready to spar. Tyrone and Mike are going to go at it. And everybody would drive around from the neighbouring gyms and park up in the gym where it was going to happen. And he says there was one particular sparring session which had to be aborted after maybe 3.5 rounds or something like that. He said, but nobody who was there present that day will ever forget what they witnessed, and that's Philly.
Yep. And that's the game.
Okay, let's have a look at this being called the wager. Let's have a look at what the money men are saying. By the way, I mean, I did nail it last week, not that it was rocket science. I said Clarissa Shields and Ivana Habazin. I just said if you bet on the fight to go the distance at evens, then you will double your money. That's what happened.
What do you want, a medal?
Yeah, sure. As I said, I did.
That's your job, bruv. You're meant to be calling out these things.
Okay, let's see if we can make you some money this week.
Smell this guy.
Prohibitive favourite at 1-16 on is with Sky Bet is Julian Williams. You got a little bit better value on the early shower, the KO win for him with 4-7. To win by decision, he is 15-8. That is your best money making option, but if you bet £10 on it and it doesn't happen, you've lost £10.
Yeah, but be realistic. This fight's not going points,
You say that. I'm wondering about that. I'll see what Shane thinks in a minute. The draw is 25-1. You've got loads of value on Rosario in any scenario. He's 8-1 for the straight win. He's 10-1 to win by KO, and he's 25-1 to win on points, which would be one hell of a bet if you fancied it. You say it's not going the distance, Spence. I'm wondering. I've got a gut feeling it might do. I realise he's been stopped once hitherto in his 21 fights, Rosario. I don't rule out the possibility. You say it's not going the distance, so let's have a look at this. The round group betting for this one with Sky Bet Williams in the first 3 rounds, you can get, is that 6-1, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not using the glasses this weekend. You get 4-1 for him to win in rounds 4 to 6, and 4-1 in rounds 7 to 9, and you've got 7-1 for him to win in the late rounds 10, 11, or 12.
And that's what I'm going for.
You're going for the 7-1.
I'm going for the 7-1 because Julian Williams isn't a concussive puncher per se. He has very, very good work rate, and he's
going to break him down.
Yeah, I believe he's going to break him down. He's going to get him in the tail end of the fight because it's a world title fight. So I got Rosario is going to come. You know, this is my big chance. You know what I mean? It's on BBC and everything else. He's going to come to fight. But I could see Julian Williams. I was going to go 7 to 9, but when I'm sitting there thinking about it, you know what I mean? I'm going to go for 10 to 12, and that 7-1 on Julian Williams to cause a stoppage.
Okay, it's a whopping 40-1 on any of those stoppage scenarios for Rosario. Shane, if you were
You'd throw
having
some
a
money on that,
flutter,
wouldn't you, Shane?
Yeah, no,
you can't help yourself, can you?
No chance. Not about that at all. But you know,
your old man told me he's going to kick you out of the ass if you keep on gambling.
But
he asks you, so how do you know that? How do you know that? See, I know everything.
no better that here. But no, you know, I would probably go with what Spence says, around 10 to 12, for kind of similar reasons as well. I mean, I don't think Rosario brings the experience to the table. I don't actually think he's actually that great of a fighter either. J-Rock has come off a very good victory. He's not the kind of guy who would look over an opponent, I believe, either.
I wouldn't underestimate him.
So yeah. So I think I'll go around 10 to 12. Like Spence said, he's not a concussive puncher either. So, but
you're going points, right?
You know what? I'm not. I was torn between the points decision for Williams or round 7 to 9, which is 4-1 there. Both of my cohorts this week, Shane Watson and Spencer Fearon, are going with the championship rounds for J-Rock at 7-1. I'm going for a slightly less value bets, but if I'm right, then I end up being right at 4-1. We shall see in due course who was right. Now, it's time for the beef, fellas. People said last week that they preferred the new format where we look at a little bit of betting odds and we have an argument about something, as we did last week about the Hurricane Carter notorious triple murder case, and then we look at a little bit of boxing history and some of the wonderful snippets of action we've seen over the years. Now, this one seemed a no-brainer this week, since we have a key member of Team Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut, in the studio with us. There's been a lot of hype and a lot of noise about a collision course with Joe Joyce and Triple D Daniel Dubois.
April the 18th, right? That's the talk.
Well, Shane will give us the lowdown on that. But, you know, these two have been talked up for a while in a potential fight. It's a fight that the fans certainly want to see on this side of the pond, and I think even in the States to a degree. I think there's a certain amount of traction over there too. So Shane, obviously you're going to be supporting your boy, and
your boy. You know, why is your boy? When's he going to be a man? You see the limit? Your boy. You see?
You're going to try and make this. You're going to try and make this.
Yes, I am going to try and make it. Just exactly that. That's right. You can't help yourself.
I said Roy.
Yeah.
and it is.
It's Ali's birthday.
Ali would have been 78 today, so we've got to use a little bit of that kind of the greatest shtick. I respect Joe Joyce and I respect his assets. Playing devil's advocate on this occasion.
Why are you playing devil's advocate?
I think because it's called the beef, and what kind of beef it is if everybody agrees with each other.
Why do you have to be the devil? Why can't you play God's advocate? You see, it's your nature.
That's my natural. Why is that the
devil's
first place I go?
Yeah, exactly. You see, we know, man. I think Elijah Muhammad was right.
I think Daniel Dubois is the better ring technician who has more going for him. Joe is phenomenally strong. His assets are his strength, his durability, and his work rate is fantastic for a heavyweight. He just doesn't stop coming. He is a juggernaut, and he is something of a threshing machine too. I think no way is Joe Joyce an easy man to beat just because he's so damn strong and tough and busy. But I would fancy Dubois to beat him if this does happen. First of all, I would like to get some insight into you about what Joe Joyce is doing next before you come back to me with your argument as why I'm talking absolute nonsense and your man would win this British heavyweight derby.
I believe the plan is to get him a quick 8-rounder or 10-rounder before maybe a bout with Danny Dubois. But and that could be on the Fury Wilder on the card. It could be elsewhere as well.
He boxed on the first Fury Wilder fight. I remember he blew away a guy called Joe Hanks. I see him outside the Sheraton Hotel afterwards. You know,
Joe Hanks. You know the first guy to beat Joe Hanks?
Who was that?
Was Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz Jr.
Ruiz. Because Hanks aesthetically looks the part. He's a big muscle guy.
Remember
got
him
these
sparring
dreadlocks.
right back.
Exactly. You know what I mean? You look at him, you'd be a bit nervous, innit, tell the truth.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I know.
100%.
What you mean
know.
if Shane was fighting him?
You little wussy. But what I'm trying to say, but no.
I wouldn't fancy you in a scrap with him either.
No, I can't fight. What do you mean? Brother,
I think he meant on Joe George's behalf.
I'm old now. That's the thing. I've got little soldiers that will take care of the business. You know what I mean? Don't worry about that. Yeah, my little young. You know how it goes. But no, you looking at this fight, right? This fight, because it's a big boy fight, and you're looking at Daniel Dubois. Maybe it's because you got the affiliation because you're always down the Peacock as well, and
I padded him when he was 9 years old.
I was just going to bring that up. That's definitely why you're backing up now.
I didn't know I did, but his dad about 2016 brought this tower of a young man in, and he said he's changed a bit, hasn't he? And I didn't know who it was, but you know when you're being polite, trying to make out you do know who people are, but they know you.
I do that every day. Don't worry about
it. Happens. You can't walk to go and get a pint of milk without that happening.
And every day I go, Like
how's your dad's golf? Is it all going okay? Yeah. Listen, so I just said politely. He said, "Don't you remember him?" And I said, "No." He said, "You padded him when he was 9 years old at the Repton when I used to help out at the nursery squad in the Repton when I was there as a coach."
Okay.
And so I'm claiming that if he does become a legendary heavyweight of any kind,
you padded him.
Yeah, can you imagine saying you padded Joe Louis when he was tiny? I mean, I don't think it's ever going to match that majesty, whichever way you slice it. But no. I don't really have any bias on this. And
who do you think is going to win? You think Daniel Dubois is going to win?
I think if the only thing I think is if Joyce were to win the fight, it would be because he outlasted him and because he absorbs the better shot. But I think when you look at Dubois, he hasn't put a foot wrong so far. I realise his competition has been plateaued at a certain level. The farce against the Japanese guy last time, less said the better.
Your employer Sam Jones ain't going to be too happy with him, mate. I'll tell you that now. You're going to get in trouble now. You are going to be in trouble. What are you doing on that show?
Well, now you mention it, I would like to briefly mention this. So me and you have been friends for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I respect the fact you've never said a word to me about this, but I got a lot of stick a little while back last year for a post on Instagram of me interviewing Joe Joyce with my phone. And I made a little quip, which was definitely not against Joe, and I've got a lot of time for Joe. He's a lovely fella. He's a great guy. But I made the mistake of making some quips saying, "It's all right, Joe. I've got an app on here that makes the interviews a bit more interesting and controversial." Because he is quite dry in interviews. He is quite. You have to really prize it out of him. And I didn't end up using the interview because there was not because the interview wasn't good really, because there was wind noise on there, and I thought, I'm not actually going to use this. But somebody jumped on it.
Boring.
Some people jumped on it and tried to say I was disrespecting a guy who had been nice enough to give me an interview, and it was really out of order. Carl Frampton jumped on board, and I know it upset Sam Jones, but I didn't actually know
about it because I only made Instagram about 6 weeks ago.
Well, okay, you didn't actually know that. I thought you had to know.
Facebook though.
It went
on Facebook.
It went Facebook.
He's not no Instagram, man. He doesn't know how to work it.
No, I'm on Instagram.
He's like my dad with remote control.
Listen,
give me what my can.
The point was, it went viral, and actually Sam Jones actually said, "Don't ever ask for another interview with Joe or another member of the team again." Obviously, I got a member of the team in right here, but I thought you knew about it, hadn't mentioned it. But I'd just like to take this opportunity to say that I was no intended disrespect to Joe whatsoever. It was just a silly little light-hearted bit of banter. He is quite reserved and quiet, and just an awfully nice young man.
Last week he was on our show. Him and Sam Jones.
Okay, tell me about that.
On The Fight Is Right, and I ain't gonna lie to you. He was very, very funny. Joe Joyce was very, very funny. Doing Michael Jackson impersonation and everything.
I think, sometimes you just need the right person to get it out of you.
Exactly.
He did Michael Jackson impersonation.
He just don't like you, bro.
You can't have everybody like you. But no, I mean, just trying to clear the air on that matter. It's actually news to me that Shane was unaware of it, but. I think Dubois is better offensively. I think he's a better boxer. He has the better fundamentals, and I think that even though Joe's got a phenomenal chin, and I think he's already proven that, because I think he's already had to prove it to an extent on his brief pro journey up to now. I do think that just because you've got a great chin doesn't mean you can't get stopped with an accumulation of punches. I think if it went the distance, I would fancy Dubois to win it on points. My scenario for Joe Joyce,
points, you'd go Dubois on points.
I know you're saying about his work rate and all the rest of it, but I think the better boxer and the more quality of work.
Right. Do you remember Chris Henry you must remember Chris Henry from the Island?
Chris Shaka Henry?
Yeah. And he just had phenomenal work rate.
But didn't he get injured in a fight with Dominic Negus? I believe.
I think so.
Yes.
But as an amateur, he just had this phenomenal work
Aaron
rate.
Pryor.
Yeah, it was. Like, for a big heavyweight, very, very similar to Joe Joyce. We're not looking. Joe Joyce, first professional fight, Ian Lewison, that's not no joke.
Yeah.
That's like, I'm arriving here.
Yeah,
right.
and he didn't have a lot of time. What's funny is I know that Shane was actually interviewing David Hay when that fight was announced, and he said, it's going viral on Twitter. People are saying he's not messing around here. What a debut that is! And it's funny to see how life goes. That Shane is now a major part of the inner circle of James Joyce.
Not really, because Shane, I've known Shane for a hot minute. I remember I got your work experience, and I'm sure I got your work experience, right? He's that kid who loves boxing, and as you can love something, and like my dad always used to tell me, like. Manners takes you all around the world. He's a very polite young man, so this is not no surprise. And he's a student. He loves the game, so it's not no surprise to me. You know what I mean?
So Shane, what's your take on it? You explain to me why Joe Joyce beats Daniel Dubois and how.
Careful now, Daniel Dubois fans are watching.
No, you know what? I'd actually like Daniel Dubois as well. And I've been watching him even before he was a pro as well, and I've always gone with him. He's a nice guy, but. The way I see this fight going, I just think that it's come too soon for Daniel. I think maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, Daniel's going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with.
Some people suggest he might end up being what Anthony Joshua was supposed to be. I've heard that said.
What do you mean, supposed to be? What do you mean?
I think they said it at the time when Joshua was still hadn't come back and reversed the consequences against Andy Ruiz. But someone said, I think he will be the great heavyweight that Anthony Joshua is being represented as.
Okay.
Okay.
But keep going.
But yeah, so I just think it's just come too soon for Dubois. I mean, I think
he's had one real step up in his whole career. When is it happening?
Well, obviously it's quite rumoured to be happening on April the 18th. But
so
it's not done yet. It's not done. So
you're co-signing that the people want it to happen, and both sides are talking.
From both sides as well. But,
you're trying to put it together, right?
Yeah, and it's obviously them kind of fights are never easy to do because there's loads of things that need to be sorted out within the fight as well.
Who would you say? I mean, I hate this talk, but it's part of the industry reckoning these days. Who do you think the A side is in a fight?
I think Joe Joyce is. I don't think it's even really questionable, if I'm quite honest with you, because if you look
as the A side.
Yeah, I think
just because Joe Joyce lost to Yonka in the finals, who's now managed by Jay Prince, my really good friend. You need to get him on the show,
I heard.
Right? He lost him in the final, in the Olympic final, and that was a bit because that could have gone Joe Joyce's way.
Yeah, of course.
I think it should have done. To be fair,
yeah, I mean, he could have got that.
But
that's why I think obviously Joe's the A side, because not that I really think that even really matters, but like obviously Olympic silver medalist, very good amateur. He's had the biggest step up as a pro as well, so I think it's just fair that it's that way.
Nah, it's not though, because I'll just be real with it. It's like more people know, and it's no disrespect. No, more people know Sam Jones up a game. More people know Daniel Dubois than they do Joe Joyce.
Not worldwide though.
We mean, but more people.
I think it's debatable. I can't quite assess that. I think it's debatable.
More people are ranting like the prospect to look out for is Daniel Dubois over Joe Joyce.
So regarding
you're not arguing with this one?
Yeah, it's an argument because worldwide it's not for sure. Because
so he's got a bigger profile across the water, you believe? Joe?
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's fought
100% he does. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you this now, right? Right, because I got the word on the street, right? Now the word on the street is that more people, will be like this guy Daniel Dubois because he looks apart aesthetically. Unfortunately, you're talking like Joe Joyce ain't no talker. Daniel Dubois ain't no talking either.
Somebody said I can't wait for the build-up for that one.
No, I'll tell you who's going to make the build-up. Frank Warren's going to make the build-up and Sam Jones. Yeah. They're the one that's going to make. Because if you leave it to them two, bruv, I'm not. It's weird because they're going to make a great fight, but I can't listen to these guys talk right now. Seriously, I'm like. Both of them, like, it's not you.
I think for some people, it really isn't them. They don't like the fame, they don't like the spotlight, they like the fighting, and
but
they
those
like the
guys
money.
can fight. Both of them they can fight.
Sure, I mean, but okay. So regardless of the kind of leverage in terms of PR and profile, how does he beat him in a ring, Shane?
I just think I always think it'll be a hard first few rounds for Joe. I think it will be. I think he will maybe get caught a few times as well. But I feel like he'll have to weather the storm.
Yeah, and I think adjust to the punching power. You think?
Yeah, and that's obviously I know they say heavyweight boxing as well. Like you can have a great chin, but you get hit hard by someone as a heavyweight. You could be hitting the canvas no matter how good your chin is, because obviously you're getting hit very hard, and Dubois does hit exceptionally hard. But I think Joe can weather a storm for the early rounds, and I think that's when he will start to come on top of.
How do you think Daniel will take Joe's power?
I'm not really too sure, and this is the thing I was going to bring up, because I've seen Daniel fight and spar a few people, and I won't really talk too much about the sparring, but when I saw him fight Richard Larty, he got caught a few times. He doesn't look. He didn't get hurt. He doesn't look very comfortable at all. There's a few times he got by Nathan Gorman, didn't look too comfortable, even though he still dominated in one of the fights. I don't want to go on about it too much because he beat Nathan Gorman up, obviously, but. I just don't think he looks that too comfortable when he gets hit. Whereas when Joe gets hit, he does.
I'm saying like, why would you want to be comfortable getting hit?
Well, I think it,
No,
like you
I'm
say,
sorry, no,
when
why-
he's-
you
when
say
he
you
gets
don't
hit, he
look-
like
you say you don't look
freezes.
too
I know, it's weird,
Right,
it's
you
how
say
it
you
freezes,
don't look too comfortable. Why would
because Joe
anybody
George
feel
does
comfortable?
look comfortable getting hit.
Right.
He looks like he's okay with it.
It's okay. Well, maybe you want to be careful now because years down the line, it ain't gonna be too good for him.
Yeah,
right?
of course, of course.
No fighter should be comfortable in getting hit at all. You should be upset with yourself if you get
I
hit.
recall a Vladimir Klitschko quote when he said, "I have no interest whatsoever in testing my chin. It's made of glass. I know that."
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's just that's the way I see it. I just think I can see Joe bringing him mid to late rounds because I think
What,
Joe's
stopping him or knocking him out.
I reckon it'll be a stoppage.
And what do you think, brother Ben?
Even though I know this is the kind of fight people will say, this one won't go the distance, I'd actually go for Dubois on points.
You really think
I
Dubois
think it
going to
could go
go?
the distance,
Like the only guy that's gone points with Daniel Dubois was an old
Kevin Johnson.
Kevin Johnson.
Yeah.
And Kevin Johnson was like really old. Right?
He takes books into the ring with him when he puts a shift on.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to say. That old, he was old.
Yeah.
Right,
And even in that fight, he started to tie up.
Kevin Johnson was saying that Daniel Dubois doesn't hit that particularly hard.
Yeah.
Right, and he's been in with
Sometimes
some
people say,
guys.
it's strange, fighters sometimes that they fight a guy who is vaunted as a puncher, as a reputation, as a knockout artist, and they say they don't think he was all that. I remember, it's not entirely relevant, but I remember Ruben Castillo in a recent-ish interview online somewhere, he said that Salvador Sanchez couldn't crack an egg. Or
Right.
sorry, he said he couldn't bust a grape, I think was his
Crazy,
exact phrase.
yeah.
So sometimes you will get guys who say that they don't rate someone's power who is supposed to be a big puncher, But in any case, so we hope that we can put that one together on April.
Oh, that's what we hope for,
13th.
man. I mean, obviously,
if you were
it's
given
still far away.
If you were
off,
going to give a
but
percentage likelihood, what would you say?
you know what? It's still at that kind of stage where it's like 60-40% where like it could happen. It's still a lot to do. Honestly, there's a lot to do. So.
And we look ahead to hopefully Joe getting a run on the Fury Wilder 2.
Hopefully,
undercard.
hopefully, and that's also
Will
still
you be going out for
another.
that if it happens?
Yeah,
He's going
100%,
anyway, I think.
100%. I'm going regardless anyway. But
Oh,
yeah,
you're
like,
going.
but
Yeah, listen, I'm really considering going right now because there's things to go and do. And I'm telling you that you should go.
You know what?
I'll leave it out.
I've got a tour the next day. I want to go.
Wow, you
Billy
got a
Joe
tour next
Saunders.
day. You're really, I've got a tour,
I
Right,
can make
come
money
on.
by staying here. I can pay money to go. But listen, the reason I'm going to go to Vegas this year when Billy Joe Saunders fights Canelo Alvarez on May the 2nd. I believe that's going to happen. That is when I'm going to Vegas.
Yeah, that's going to be a big boy fight, man. Seriously.
Before we move on to the throwback, to wrap this one up, you're sitting on the fence up to now. Just tell me, nice and simple, Joyce or Dubois, if it happens this year or next.
And I'm not sure. And that's not. I'm being dead honest with you. I am not sure.
That's why we want to see it.
Yeah, right. And that's why I want to say. I'm not sure.
Out
But
question, where
go on.
So if the winner of that fight, where do you think they should go on to next?
The winner of the fight.
See, these days it's so...
Hrgovic is there, right?
Yeah.
I've liked Hrgovic, right? I really like the kid. I'd like to see the winner maybe going with him.
Yeah, but rumours of him going back into the Olympics wouldn't make that really possible.
I hope that doesn't
He
happen.
wants what Hrgovic wants to go back to the Olympics in Tokyo.
But I hope,
because they can do that these days.
But I hope that doesn't happen.
Why does he want to do that, I wonder?
Which I'd have no idea. But,
Certainly for the achievement, I guess.
yeah.
He's-
that that heavyweight that Dylan White looks after, is it Babic? Is that how you say his name?
yeah.
He was going in on Hrgovic recently about that because he's a Croatian heavyweight as well.
Yeah.
And he was saying how he wants to give him like a backhander for that.
Yeah, he's quite rightly so. I have to back him up with that one, even though I'm
Yeah.
not giving no one no backhanders.
Okay, talking of Olympics, fellas, today would have been the 78th birthday of the incomparable Muhammad Ali, himself an Olympic gold medalist in Rome 1960. And I thought it would be nice for the throwback to look at one of his early career moments. The first time he tasted the canvas, February the 10th, 1962 at Madison Square Garden versus Sonny Banks. This was the night Angelo Dundee said that he fell in love with young Clay. He said because he got hit when he was unloading. Funny enough, when you look at it, which we will in a second, it's a little bit reminiscent. It's a little bit reminiscent of the Mike Weaver, Carl Williams thing we looked at last week, where young Clay makes Banks miss, turns him, puts him in a corner, and starts unloading with that effortless fluidity that he had. And he just makes a mistake. He's throwing punches. He's not getting his hands back. And Banks lands a great counter left hook. He goes down quite heavily. Dundee said he went down heavily and his eyes looked gone for a second, and then he just jumps back up and into the fray. But if you look at the knockdown, he jumps back up. Referee Ruby Goldstein walks him backwards. He looks maybe a little bit unsteady, but then he bounds on his toes straight back into the fray and picks up where he left off. And you'd never guess he'd been knocked down. In the second round, Clay puts Banks down, and what I really love is the beautiful combination punching flow that a young Clay had. He would skip in front of you like he was dancing on a film of air, and he would just find the range with that great left jab. And at some point, Clay throws a triple right hand and a double left hook.
I'm just saying, like, with it being not only about that fight, I'll suggest to any person. I don't know how you're gonna go watch it because it's not actually out here. You're gonna have to go stream it. But The Godfather of Harlem, they which is about Bumpy Johnson, the renowned crime lord figurehead. His relationship with Malcolm X, his relationship with Muhammad Ali, even though a lot of it's being fictionalized as well. But just looking at that time there of like what Ali represented at that time, even though he's Cassius Clay then, he didn't change his name.
Yeah, until 1963, right?
Until a year later. But what he stood for, and it was weird, like me driving to the train station before coming here, I was thinking about Colin Kaepernick. And then everyone said, "Oh, Colin Kaepernick's a new Ali." Easy hell.
No.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Colin Kaepernick, right? I'm sorry to digress into something else, right? But Colin Kaepernick has not given up something where he has been at the top of the echelons of the sport that he has chosen. He's not that, right? Ali gave up something. Not only at the time it was for the stand against the Vietnam War, but it was also on the fact that I'm showing like this supposed system of that I'm a better boy than you.
When
guys.
you look at the situation, it's unheard of today. It's unseen today. The fact that he was really ready to block and cripple himself that badly over,
but he did block and cripple himself. Yeah, right.
And it's only by, I would say, by divine grace that he rebounded to the legendary status and success that he did. Because as a journalist at the time in one of those old Ali retrospectives said, no person sane or insane would ever told you he would finish this century, the 20th century at the time, as the most revered, loved sports figure in history.
Exactly.
You could never have seen that coming. When he was down, and he was prepared. People say he was manipulated by, Herbert Mohammed and the Nation of Islam, and there's elements of truth in all of that. But the fact was,
I think
at the cold, hard core of the man was his principle.
Yeah,
and
of course.
He was prepared to let it all go to hell for what he believed in.
I think he was manipulated by Herbert Mohammed, who's actually the son of Elijah Muhammad, who was the founder of the Nation of Islam.
Yeah.
Right? I do believe that.
I meant to say Elijah Muhammad, by the way. I didn't mean to say Herbert, sorry.
No, but how was he manipulated by Elijah Muhammad?
This is another
This is
debate.
Ali's own words. This is Ali's own words. Ali's own words is that Elijah Muhammad was the person that financed him. He said at the time when he was interviewed by Harry Carpenter, I owe him like $250,000, right? So I want to hear about he was manipulated. This is coming from people saying, he was manipulated. From people, you're hearing this from people who have stole countries.
Roy Robinson said when he gave an account of around about 1964 when the draft came up for Ali, and he said about going to Vietnam, and he said, I don't want to go. He said, I don't want to go, Ray. He said, but the Muslims tell me I got to go. I'm scared. And Robinson would say, so he said, sorry. He said, I don't know where to go or not. He said, the Muslims tell me I can't go. He said, and I'm scared. And Robinson said, what do you mean you can't go? The Muslims say, you got to do what you want to do, champ. And he was saying, they say that I can't go. That was his first thing. That was his. Before anything else about where he stood on it, morally or otherwise, he said, they say I can't go.
Okay, let me tell you this. If that was the case, then that's the best thing that ever happened to Ali because of what he stood for and then through the fact of him acquiring the knowledge that he had. You have to remember this part here now, and I'm going to break this one down. Like, Elijah Muhammad is being vilified as this con artist and all the rest of it. Wait 1 second. Elijah Muhammad was a social reformer. Elijah Muhammad had businesses, produced schools, did all these kind of things for black people at that time there. And I'm going to be 100% with you. If I was living at that time there, knowing of the segregation, we just worked it out. Remember I told you just the other day, it was only till like 19, when Ali won the world heavyweight title February 23rd,
1964.
Right, 1964, he wasn't even allowed to vote. I think I said this on one of your videos.
People don't realise this.
He wasn't even allowed to vote. But yeah, they wanted to go fly
to shoot other brown people who never threw a rock at me or
exactly,
America.
And no Viet can't never call me no N-word. So therefore, what Muhammad Ali stood for, whether he was coaxed into it or not, was powerful. Was very, very powerful. Right? Nobody else, no other. Name the next person that's beaten Uncle Sam. Name the next person that's been to the Supreme Court. A black man go to the Supreme Court and win? Come on, man.
It's extraordinary.
Of course it's extraordinary.
And it's a wonder he didn't find himself at the end of an assassin's bullet.
Right, exactly. And Ali would not have been the person. And people say, nah, he would have been. No, he would not have been the man that... You got to think about this now, right? Elijah Muhammad, yeah? The most prominent black Americans of the 20th century, yeah? You got to think about it, yeah? Have been... You say Martin Luther King, right?
Yeah.
Malcolm X. And you'd have to say Louis Farrakhan. You'd have to say, and then you got but the guy that smashed all of them was Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. Reason why? Because he's funny, he was witty, he was all these kind of things. But who taught these guys? Who taught Louis Farrakhan? Who taught Malcolm X? Who taught these guys? Elijah Muhammad. So therefore, when people want to talk about how bad Elijah Muhammad, I don't agree with the madness of who he thinks. Like, I'm not in none of that. But what I am saying is, as a social reformer, they need more Elijah Muhammads today.
I do fear we've gone off something on a socio-political tangent. He can't even let me do that bit when I just thought it was a nice little cut there and I'm about to do this, but he's got to keep talking. Listen, let's take a little look, as per the throwback, young Cassius Clay tasting the deck and rebounding to stop Sonny Banks on February 10th, 1962.
Clay in the white trunks and Banks in black. If Banks does anything, it's figured to be early. He's a power puncher early in a fight. Clay is the most loquacious heavyweight since Jack Sharkey. He's ranked 9th by Ring Magazine. Banks is unranked. Ruby Goldstein, the referee. There goes Clay on the floor. He's got to take the mandatory 8 count. There's the mandatory 8 count. 1 minute to go in round 1. These boys are punchers. Don't turn away. Let's see if they count that a knockdown. No. 1 minute to go in round 3. Banks was roughed by that left hook. He's getting roughed a little more. Banks is in real trouble. But he can punch back yet. 30 seconds left in the round. Seconds to go in round 3. Hold everything. Ruby Goldstein is asking the commission physician, Dr. Alexander Schiff, to come in and take a look at Sonny Banks, who had took quite a going over from Cassius Clay in the last round. And let's see whether or not the doctor recommends that the bout be allowed to continue. Round 4. Goldstein is stopping the fight. That's all. Sonny Banks wants to continue.
And there we have it. And for my money, he does remain the greatest heavyweight who ever lived on head-to-head considerations, on body of work, and everything else.
Listen, Ali is the guy. And that's that. Cassius Clay, Ali, whatever you want to call him. He was the guy. and for him to do the things that he was doing like back then, because like when you get great fighters, right? When you get great, do you remember like in the 80s when everyone was in the gym, especially when you was down the road, everyone was trying to fight like Tyson? Do you remember that? Right?
Yeah.
But they were though. I know you were, right? Or then like in the early 80s, everyone was trying to do Sugar Ray Leonard. Like in the 70s, everyone was trying to be like Ali. So it's like you are the trademark when guys tried to fight like you. So we turn it back to our time now, like early decades, everyone's trying to do the Roy Jones with the hands and be fighting from down here. Then when Floyd Mayweather come out, everyone's doing shoulder roll, right? And that is the mark of your greatness when you are so powerful within your era that everyone tries to fight like you, or they still bitch from you. Like you are the study case, and Ali's been the study case. He's still a study case up to today, and that's what makes him so great.
You heard it here first, and we duly pay homage. Shane, thanks for coming in. I wish you all the luck with Joyce going forward. Spencer, as always, it's been a pleasure. Don't forget our wonderful sponsors, Buy My Fight and West Bend Logistics, without whom none of this would be possible. In the meantime, be lucky and keep punching.